Joining us now is Ben Howe. He is the head writer for the Dana Lash program for Blaze TV and helped create the GoFundMe page for the O'Connor family. Ben, what led you and the team to start the GoFundMe campaign, and what did you hope to accomplish?
Well, what really got us into the idea was some initial phone calls with the family, even ahead of the television interview. It was clear they were really concerned for their livelihoods, for their business, but also for themselves. There had been a threat earlier that day by a school teacher, or a school coach rather, who had said she was going to burn the place down. And so they were just very scared, and it spoke to all of us, and we just decided something had to be done, and this seemed like a good way to help.
And so the family was feeling that their business was not safe and that they needed to shut down for a time?
That's right. The media was basically camped out in front of their store. In fact, people are still coming by to this day. There was a gay inclusive church that sang hymns out front today, which obviously isn't damaging specifically, but it's certainly distracting if you're trying to attract customers into your store and there are people protesting outside. I think that they were overall just concerned that they'd never be able to function as a normal business again because they've become a lightning rod for criticism.
All right, and this GoFundMe campaign has done really well. Tell us where you're at to date, and when did you realize that it was going to become so big?
Well, we started out with a $25,000 goal. The idea was we just wanted to give them something to sort of pad the situation so that they wouldn't have to close their doors forever. And that later that night, within 3 hours, we hit the goal of 25,000. And so we said, well, let's just see how this goes. And we raised the cap to 30 and 35, and then we weren't able to keep up eventually. We stopped raising the cap around $200,000, and today it's at, well, actually, as of closing on Friday, it's at $842,592.
Wow, and why do you think that people responded so strongly, Ben?
I think that people don't like bullies. And I think that people were outraged at the idea that this pizza, because keep in mind, they were asked a hypothetical question by a newscaster. They hadn't turned anybody away. They just answered a question. And this was the response they got. I think people inherently just hate seeing people be bullied, and they wanted to have their voices heard.
All right, and take us back just a little bit. The family was asked a hypothetical question and said not that they would refuse service to any gay person per se, but that they would refuse to cater for a gay wedding. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. There was a reporter, an ABC local reporter, who was looking for small businesses to answer the hypothetical question: would your business cater? Because I mean, obviously, pizza catering to a wedding isn't a big business to begin with. They were just asked, if somebody asked you to, would you do it? They said no. But again, if this is not a question of whether or not they would serve a gay customer. A gay customer is free to come in. They've said that multiple times. They would never turn away a gay customer. They were turning down the opportunity, if one should present itself, to do this specific type of event. I don't believe that that's classically considered discrimination.
All right. And Ben, how is the family reacting to this phenomenal amount of money that has been raised through this GoFundMe campaign?
I think that they, the father has said that to go from such incredible negative to such incredible positive so quickly has been more than he's even known how to deal with. I mean, within a 24-hour span, they went from answering a simple question on the news to believing that everything they had was going to be destroyed, to seeing an outpouring of love from across the country. So I think that it's going to take them a while probably to process. I mean, even as an outsider, helping with this, it's almost too much to process. This was the second most successful GoFundMe of all time.
Wow. Do you think that you have tapped into something here in terms of, is this a new way of showing support for Christians who suffer financially for their faith?
I think absolutely it is, because, a lot of times things are decided, and unfairly, in my opinion, by legislation. If a legislature decides to do something, then apparently that's the will of the people. But that doesn't always really translate very well. I think the better way to gauge how people feel is these grassroots efforts and seeing people reach out and respond. There have been efforts to undo this by other groups. There have been attempts to create grassroots efforts to counter what's happened here, and they haven't gotten traction. And the reason they haven't gotten traction is because they don't have the type of national support from Americans that an effort like this does.
All right, Ben, really fascinating. Ben Howe with Blaze TV, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.